Hello, everyone.
Hi, this is Fatima.
I'm Zara, and welcome to season 2. We have a guest.
Mustafa, would you want to go in and introduce yourself?
Tell us everything about you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Sayyid Mustafa Iqbal. I think first and foremost, the reason I'm on here is because I'm a Shia. Uh, I think the number two reason would be is that I write poetry, perhaps, on Instagram. Uh, that is a thing I do. Apart from that, I'm a student in Turkey at Bilgi University. I'm studying international relations / political science. And Zara, she wanted me to do this, so I'm more than happy to be obliged.
We have like 2 political studies students here. I love it. I don't know where this conversation is going to go with that.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Basically, how did you start writing your poetry? Because that's an interesting fact. You write poetry and all these things that are very Shia related. And I want to know how that
basically, I began writing my poetry about 2 years ago. I was never really into literature per se. Like, I read a few novels, I read Harry Potter. That was it. Being a Shia has always been very important to me, and hopefully will continue to be very important to me. So I started, reading, and I started getting into things because I've always been very into it. Like, it's very, for me, it's a very important part of my life. So, once I started getting into it and I wanted to try and understand things, what I'm actually believing, what does my perspective of things have to say about the world. So when I got into that, it really, I would say, yeah, like it interested me to the point where I have grown overly attached to it. Um, and obviously with that came a lot of emotions, and the way I found that I could express my emotions best was through poetry. And it happened out of the blue though. Like, I saw a picture, I'm like, I'm going to write on it. I did, and that was the first thing I wrote.
Yeah, but that's like the same process Fatma talks about. She sees a picture and then she gets inspired to write. And
I know it's so instant. Okay, but so what I'm interested in knowing is that how has it impacted your life? So when you write poetry, especially related to like Shiaism and such topics, right, which are so personal and yet so political, how has it impacted your worldview or your life or just everything about you in general?
I mean, I would say that it has had a certain impact on my life. Since I've started writing, I think I've maybe not, practical religiosity, but a sort of like, I know what's going on and I know where I'm at with my beliefs. And like, if with my beliefs, like if someone asks me something, I want to be able to explain it to them, right? So that, because there are misconceptions in the community, like, the worldwide community about Shias, and
let's address
it's
those
not
myths.
been favorable.
Yeah. I want to actually address them. Yeah.
All right. So for like personally growing up, I've never had uh, a real, like, I would say hate towards Shias. There's probably like there's only one example in my mind that stands out, and that happened in Probels, by the way.
I remember. I think I know what you're talking about. That's like one of my first memories of you.
Yeah. So like there was just that, like, growing up, like, people never really had an issue. Like, we would talk about it sometimes, here and there. It really started becoming more important to me, like around the age of 15, 16, where I was like, okay, like, this is something, and honestly, I find it cool. Like I read about things that help me understand the world with a perspective that is not so lost on modern perspectives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think a lot of learning about religion is that it's very compatible with like a lot of modern philosophy and how you really want to go about life and the way we think about life in general. And so it's really weird when you think of the disconnect you have between, oh, I want to live life this way, but religion dictates another way. And then the more you learn, the more you realize that's actually a false narrative,
Yeah.
and they're actually very compatible.
Yes.
It's literally
I
essentially the same
definitely
thing,
agree.
you know. It's a way of life, except for you kind of limit yourselves, because like, you know, this whole thing of you are a good person versus are you a good Muslim, the thing is they kind of interlink with each other. You don't have, like, you know what I mean? Like sometimes people, like if you define someone by saying, oh, you pray 5 times a day therefore you're good, but they're also going and shooting someone, it doesn't add up. So it's like what comes
Yeah.
first, right? So like that's kind of where religion stands for me, because if you're a good person, no matter what your faith kind of is, it kind of takes an
Yeah,
entirely different
it
direction.
overrules it definitely.
Yeah.
But okay, so I want to go
Agreed.
in a bit deeper. So there's a lot of I would say misconceptions or very like different narratives around Shia Islam in general. So there's one very like normative kind of Sunni hegemony that has always been there, and it's always been this huge difference, right? So they made Islamiyat compulsory in all levels, even in higher education, right? And there was this really
Right.
interesting post which said that, so will you discuss Islam and teach Islam for all the different sects that are there, because there's so many, right? There's Sunni, there's even divisions within Sunni, there's Shia, there's divisions within Shia Islam as well. There's so many. So how do you plan to, like, cover all of that, because they're all it's Islam, right? And that was, I think that was as in personally for me, it was a big point where it was like, okay, yeah, so that's finally some recognition that the only Islam isn't just this very dominant like
Yeah.
Sunni Wahhabi Islam that is being like taught. I don't know if was it the same kind of click for you as well?
Yeah, I definitely think that, like, when I was studying Islamiyat, like, it's been a while, but like, uh, I never really like, I don't mind studying Sunni Islam because, then I can sit and compare, right? Like, okay, yeah, obviously it is apparent what would appeal to me more because, uh, what it aligns with my beliefs. But regardless, growing up in O and A levels and everything, it was like, yeah, they teach you a different history, but it is also history regardless, right? Your beliefs and history can tell two different stories because your beliefs are from a particular line that you believe is divine, and history is written by probably other people you think are not divine. So there will always be that contention. And honestly, like, I try to look at it open-mindedly. uh, but yeah, it is an issue, so to speak, that, people are not being educated on other brands of Islam,
Do you think
which
do you think
which was like in O levels. It's like I did think to myself, oh, why is there like only this, and like there's, I think, 3 paragraphs for Karbala, which is like
Like the whole part where there's like this entire section about everything else, but then the imams are covered in like 2 pages, and that's it.
2 pages exactly. And like
And
I
you aren't
heard
even
now they've
you weren't even taught that.
added like an appendix, especially for Shia children. I don't see the point.
no, but do you think that this is the reason why a lot of our friends would not understand or know about the other different sects, and that is
Oh
why
yeah,
there's so much hate?
definitely, for
Because
sure.
there is so much misconception, but the things I hear people talk about, like I come from a very protected area and I don't have an insane amount of knowledge, which is why I would always come and ask you, okay, hey, like, can you explain this? Because I have to explain to my friend. But the things I hear, they don't even add up, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's not just there's not just no education, but that there's also media education, right? Like you open the TV and the only thing you see about Shiaism is matam. in Muharram and then a bomb blast in the Julus. That's like literally
Yes.
what the third person knows. Nothing else. Nobody
Exactly.
knows anything about the belief. And I don't, like, what is the first thing you would say for
like to describe what being a Shia is like, um, I would
try?
say try it. It's like oh God, it is good. You really can't describe it. It is an extreme passion that can very easily take over your life to a very real extent, because if and it's the kind of thing that is not harmful to you per se. Like there is obviously, like if you become too religious, you're opening up to becoming a conservative and embracing certain ideologies that cannot be good or politically correct in modern times, right? But that is also of an extreme, if you guys get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the extreme love of the alphabet that we have, that's perfectly normal. I'm describing it to other people, right? For us, it's like this is how
Yeah.
we have always felt.
Yeah.
We can get but like from there you can go on to other extremes which can end up being dangerous for you, which is where we Shias being famous for matam.
Yeah.
Like that's literally, you type Shia in Google and the first thing you will see is a person doing matam. Isn't Jil ka matam, khuni matam, not even normal
Yeah.
matam. Right? That just yeah, it doesn't present a good picture, because like, I don't get me wrong, I've done matam, I do matam, uh, I will continue to do matam because it is something I feel comfortable doing. But again, it is not an obligatory act that you have to do. Like if you don't do it, then like nahi bakshenge mom se aapko agar aapne matam.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, right? And one more thing is that when you're talking about love, it's at least for me, it's not a like a one-way connection, right? Like oh, I send them love, but I don't. But there is that feeling of that there is a connection, some sort of connection, whether it's weak or it's strong or however it is, and in whatever way you have it, people have it. Like I write poetry. Uh, I know people that make art and they make mind-blowing art about the alphabet, and it is that for us, it because when you enter the service of such people, uh, so to say that we're not worthy of it, but like when you try to enter the service of them, that is them telling you that yeah man, you're cool with us, you're like, we like you, you're cool.
I think so. There's always a certain element, because there is such a belief, right? That yeah, there's divinity, and then there is obviously a very real spiritual connection that is there. But I think more so because, particularly in Shia Islam, there is always this very real emphasis on tragedy, right? The tragedy, which is the tragedy of Karbala, right? Which is the pinpoint of everything that is there, right? It culminates all in almost all the, it is the culmination of all the belief that we hold, right? So it covers everything from love, from self-sacrifice, to dedication, to patience, to devotion, to as absolutely everything, right? And I'd say that's the main reason. So the reason that the element of service, or the element of sacrifice, or the element of devotion, of the element of being selfless, is such a strong factor, right? As in, love, I think, is probably the biggest factor that is there in Islam, at least for, I think, for most of us, right? Is because of the tragedy being so real, right? As in, you grew up hearing about it. So you're a baby, I think, when your parents take you and you start listening to this, and you grow up with it. So it becomes a part of you. It's very real, very strong. And I think that's why it plays such a big part. So when you grow up hearing the tragedy of Karbala since you're a child, you don't understand anything then, but as soon as you know you're at a stage where you can, it sort of grows within you as well. So it
It starts
becomes
resonating
very,
with you. It's like, okay, yes.
It starts to make sense and connect, because I think, you know, when you grow up you also listen to all these majlises, and I think at that point, like let's say for me it was like 14, 15, right? I came to a point where I started questioning everything, and when you question things, that's how you learn. At least that's what I truly believe. So I used to go and put up these really hard questions to my dad, and he would just be like, no, hello, you can't ask these things. So I went on Google, I went to all these websites and all these things, and I think that's kind of where you kind of start to reclaim your religion that is passed down by blood per se. And I think that's when it begins to get real, because you know, you start to
100%.
understand what forgiveness is, what love is, what grief is, and then it just grows. I don't think it leaves you, you know. And I think that moment is very pivotal. And I feel like for me at least, I haven't, like, you know, I would relate it again to like the things I've heard versus how I've seen it is so different, because I've not ever faced the things I hear other people talk about.
why don't we actually talk about those things? Because we've talked a lot about like the spiritual aspect of it and personal things, but what are the things that you've actually heard? So as in, for me personally, I come from like a very small sect within the Shia community, so it's like even more protected than it is for the both of you. It is like super small, super close, super tight-knit community, so it is very like far away from mainstream kind of as is. So how is it for the both of you per se? Misconceptions, things you've heard of your friends go through or other people go through.
I think the first thing I heard was that it's a cult, that we're like devil worshippers, like we're idol worshippers. And I was like, yes, okay, cool. Anything else you want to add?
Oh my God, wait. Grave worshippers is what I've heard so many
Grave
times.
worshippers.
It's like, oh my God, and you know what? Okay, oh my God, I just remembered this. One of my teachers, she told me to come to her class, and she was like, you know, it's like a magic versus illusionist trick, and like when alums bleed, kind of, there's like buttons behind them, and I was like, how is that possible? Why would someone do that? I mean, I like
that thing is, people do that. Like, I've seen
but
that
not
happen. But like, yeah, it's not something, you know, that you would call a common occurrence. It's like, even if people do it, and you can easily tell, and if you find out, man, you suck. Like,
you cover like dupattas with like blood and like the red paint or whatever, and that is one thing. But to call like mojize and all of that as like,
that's too much.
Yeah,
that's too much.
I think that those
it's
are
not even too much. It's just straight up wrong, man. You're deceiving people. Like, you did that.
Yeah.
You put a pipe in an alarm. Why would you do that? It's sacrilege. Like, honestly, for me, it's sacrilege.
And for me, hearing that, I was like, how do I even explain? Because first you're saying that the alam is basically a flag, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand that entire concept to even begin with.
Yeah.
Wait, actually explain it. What is the alam?
The alam is basically like, okay, so everyone knows the history that, you know, like Hazrat Ali got the flag of Islam in the Battle of Badr and the Battle of Khaybar, and I also think the Battle of Uhud, I'm not sure. So like the alam for us, its primary focus is that it is the flag of Islam, but obviously it is not the flag of Islam. It is for the remembrance of the flag of Islam, right? Like, if you go to Iraq or Iran or in a lot of places that don't have a lot of subcontinental influence, you will find alams are just flags. Often they have Ya Hussein, Ya Abbas, Ya Ali, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, Ali and Waliullah written on them. That is their version of the alam. In the subcontinent, they are elaborate. Yes, like the subcontinent has heavily influenced how Shias commemorate Muharram. Like, the history of the subcontinent is such that it has done that. For example, in Pakistan, you see the alams at the Punjab, right? They have like a hand on them. It's elaborate, it's metal work done, it's shiny. And there are reasons for it, right? There, I could give you like a bunch of religious reasons, but like honestly, that's my outlook on it, right? It's not anyone else's. It's not, for example, it's not a Sunni person's, or it's not a Hindu person's either. For us, it's like, it's beautifying something. It's like, it makes it stand out. Like, look, this is something to be looked at, and this should make you remember that, right?
So
So, and
what
and
is
and then with that, there's, the history of Hazrat Abbas, of course, because
yeah.
most alams are, they have Ya Abbas written on them. Like in Muharram, the alam is basically what you would take out in the remembrance of Hazrat Abbas.
Who was basically the flag
Okay.
bearer.
Yeah, who was
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
flag
why
bearer.
it's Alam Bardar, right? So the flag
Yeah,
bearer.
alam
Okay.
was that.
So okay, but why don't we go into that? Because I think there are so many misconceptions, even just about the whole event of Karbala and just entirety
Yeah.
with it, right? So why is the flag bearer so important in the first place? I mean, you know a lot about it, so this is entirely your time to speak and just explain all of this essentially.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the
So
story of essentially Hazrat Abbas, yeah.
the Hazrat Abbas is, first and foremost, he's the son of Imam Ali. Uh, he was born from Bibi Ummul Baneen, whose real name is Fatima Al Kilabia. And I could tell you a bunch of, tiny details about why she was chosen by Hazrat Ali to be his wife. But what you need to know is Hazrat Abbas is a son that Maula Ali prayed for, right? So, like, when you look at Shia Islam, for us, Hazrat Ali is, after the Prophet, he's number one, right? So for his stature for us is like, and then he's praying for someone, or he's praying for something. It's mind blowing for you, right? So Hazrat Abbas is that son, right? Who was like, they say he was born specifically for Karbala. Like the whole point of his life was Karbala. That, I'm going to go to Karbala and I'm going to sacrifice myself for Imam Hussain, and it showed throughout his life, right? Like he was Imam Hussein's right hand. He was his backbone, right? Like like people would often hear that, when Hazrat Abbas died, Imam Hussain said, "Hi, meri kamar toot gayi." That is like literally, my backbone has broken. It's a figure of speech. People have taken it literally, but uh, it is a figure of speech. But yeah, so like, throughout his life, Hazrat Abbas and Imam Hussain maintained a very special relationship with regards to the fact that Imam Hussain loved Hazrat Abbas more than anything. And Hazrat Abbas was literally, he called himself a servant of Imam Hussain, right? Like he never, like, it's popular that Hazrat Abbas never called Imam Hussain brother until Imam Hussain specifically asked him to, when he was
That was
when
when he was literally like dying.
that
Like
was,
his
yeah,
last
when
breath,
he
that
was dying,
was
when like his last breath, he called him brother.
Yeah.
And then when we look at Karbala, Hazrat Abbas, even prior to the actual day of Ashura, Hazrat Abbas plays a very crucial role, because he is the flag bearer of Imam Hussein's caravan, right? He is the flag bearer of the army, because once like they found out, there's gonna be a battle, right? So Imam Hussain was like, yeah, that is going to happen. So Hazrat Abbas is going to be the Alamdar. He was Imam Hussein's, he was like his main commander. Uh, he was what Hazrat Ali was to the Holy Prophet, right? Like,
essentially.
and that is a parallel that is drawn very seriously, because the similarities between the character of Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Abbas, the sheer strength in battle. He said they've said he was really good looking. There's like so many things. He was tall and handsome, and the way he fought in battle, and but at the same time he was generous and well learned. He was learned, and he was, obviously, when you come from a family where there is a certain, you are going to be influenced by it, right? And in Karbala, obviously, Hazrat Abbas played a very central role. He was, a lot of people have said he was the last person to leave the camp of Imam Hussain before Imam Hussain himself. Some say he was the last one, last adult to leave the camp of Imam Hussain, because they say Hazrat Ali Asghar was sent after him. But Hazrat Abbas was basically I've heard various accounts. Some say that he did fight, some say he didn't fight. In the subcontinent, it is popular that he did not actually fight in Karbala. He was sent to get water for the children of the Ahlul Bayt, but he did not fight, right? In Arab versions, I have heard that he did fight, and it's quite popular to show him fighting. Uh, but the point of it is like, it's his arms are severed, right? He went, he got the water. Like, people literally thought when Hazrat Abbas came into battle, he was Imam Ali, right? So when you bring Hazrat Abbas into battle and people think it's Imam Ali, they're going to run away. What are you going to do, man? So he got water and he was heading back, and that is when people were like, okay, this is going to be a problem, because if he gets water to the camp of Imam Hussain, then we're done. Like we've lost. There's no point anymore, right? So they had to obviously launch an attack on Hazrat Abbas, and they did. During the course of it, it's for us, like, when we hear about it in a majlis, it's very painful. It's extremely painful. I'm explaining it so quickly and so like, just running through it, because it is like again, I keep thinking up new things that I would want to tell, but again, they don't seem as relevant. So and one very important thing that is important in the character of Hazrat Abbas especially is loyalty, right? He is called Shahenshah-e-Wafa, the king of loyalty, right? And obviously he was loyal throughout his life, but one thing that really stood out in history is the fact that after he had died, he asked that his body not be taken back to the camps of Imam Hussain, because even in death, he could not bear to return unsuccessful and face the children of Imam Hussain, right? Like, you failed your master. What is your loyalty?
There's also the story that, so essentially Hazrat Abbas made it to the river, right?
Yeah.
And he got the water. And then there was a moment where water was literally right at his feet, but he didn't take a sip of it. He didn't drink any of the water, because how can he drink when you have the Imam and his family without water? And that he was so strong and he was so powerful that literally no one came up front to fight him. Everyone was hiding behind trees, or like, as in the entire army, people on that road were just hiding behind trees. And the story is that, it was first in his right hand. So they shot an arrow in his right hand that got cut off. He took it in his left hand. They shot the arrow in his left hand. He took it in his mouth. And then they shot the arrow at the bag of water. And that's when he fell, because he has two hands entirely.
At that point, he lost hope. He's like, what am I going to do now? I cannot return. Like, I call it chivalry in Urdu. You'd call it ghairat. Is a very important factor and aspect of the Ahlul Bayt entirely, but also especially of Hazrat Abbas. And I'm not talking about ghairat in the sense that that it is popularly known. It's like, it is not something that is that is imposed on someone. It's it's common courtesy. It is a very simple thing that I am struggling to explain right now, because I cannot think of it and I cannot translate.
I think it's about what you value, right? So yeah. What is your purpose? So as in a very real thing, right? So what is your purpose in life? Your purpose in life is to create something, to build something, to help others, right? It is for service. I think that is something most people grow up hearing. That's something that I've grown up hearing, is that your purpose essentially in life is to give back to others. So whatever you do, whatever you make, whatever you earn, whoever you are, service is a very important part of it, right? Khidmat karna, to be helpful for others, is like a central central thing that you have to do. And so it's the same, it's that concept just magnified, right? So the purpose of this entire thing that Hazrat Abbas did was to get water back for the children to the campsite, right? And then he wasn't able to do that. And when he wasn't able to do that, he had lost all hope. What was the point for what he was doing in the first place?
You know, an important thing that I heard in a majlis like 2 days ago was the fact that he was trained to fight, right? Like you just explained.
Yeah.
He was the fighter. And he never got that chance either. And he kind of also knew that, you know, because he would never, again, loyalty, he would never cross Imam Hussein when he said, we're not going to fight, you know?
Okay, so that's one really important figure, right? That was Hazrat Abbas. What others? I think, as in, what in your poetry is there any specific mention of any other like any other prominent members that are very close to you?
Particularly for me, Imam Ali is some. I think I've written the most poetry about Imam Ali, and that I think stems from me finding a lot of his character very black person, and the humanity that he shows, that sort of humanity in my life, I don't know if I will be able to, but it's something that I would like. It's something I hold in very high esteem, right? Justice, things like that. Like anything, like when you think of the ideal man, right? For us, that is Imam Ali, right? After the Holy Prophet, the ideal man for a Shia is Imam Ali. So through that, and also because you do cling to personalities. uh, I'm sure like everyone has a certain personality they cling to. I've like I could, and you people cling to multiple too. It's very common. But yeah, Imam Ali is someone that's been very important to me, and I've had a very real sort of want in my life that I wish that I was with him, or wish that I could see him or talk to him or sit with him. Because for me, that man has all the answers, right? If I'm going to ask someone about life and like the tough questions and what should I do, or even if I just want to like submit myself in service, there's no one I'd rather do it.
That's so interesting. Such a beautiful thought also.
You know, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but his shrine, there are like many domes, right? In a shrine, like if you talk about it architecturally, and that each shrine each dome represents like a body of knowledge that if you sit under and study, I don't know the exact detail, but it has to do with that you get that entire knowledge kind of, because he had the knowledge of every single thing in every detail that you can think
So
of.
it's the common saying, right? So if the Prophet, right, was the garden for knowledge, then the door was Hazrat Ali. So the only way you could get the knowledge was to him, right?
Yeah.
And that's a very known, isn't it? Something that you've heard a lot. It's always been there, right? And I think this is something isn't particularly really important, because I think, again, the whole like misconceptions about like grave worshipping and all of that, right? It always stems from saying that, oh, you like hold these people in such positions, and it's this really weird misconception, right? It's just to the point that because they were such prominent figures and such important personalities, right, who had a lot of knowledge and had a lot of power and were there essentially for the service of other people, right? As in the reason, like you said, you have so much love for these people, and it can't just be a one-way thing. So your love for them exists because their love for you also exists, as in that is the basis
Shown
for
it like
the entirety of it.
I'm sorry I'm cutting in, but like
No, of course.
we have mentioned us like as Shias, like like our Shias, right? There are sayings that relate to that. So you're like, okay, so, like even a profession of love is enough.
It's true. And I think an important distinction to make clear is that being a Shia is not like any different belief. It's just that you have a lot of love and you hold Hazrat Ali and their entire family in high regard. So you have a lot of love for them, which is the entirety of basis for being a Shia in the first place. Like that is literally it.
They're
That is
nasal.
all.
Literally,
That
they're
is all it
nasal.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a final wrap up, we would like to say firstly, like, thank you for coming and talking to us, and kind of sharing your knowledge and your perspective, relating to especially like Shia Islam and how it is important for you. Is there anything that you would like to say as closing remarks, or something that as a takeaway for
Um,
the
Honestly,
listeners?
it was a pleasure. I live on conversations like these. Uh, I could literally talk about it all day, and I'm so glad we did this because uh, spreading awareness, especially these days, is so important. Uh, because a lot of things happen that don't come out, that are very behind the scenes, and it causes very big issues in the future. So, like, I'm not saying that be invested, but look, this is like things are happening, and this awareness is being spread for a reason. Like, we're perfectly happy living with you. Just like, we'll call people out if something happens to you. We're just asking you to do the same for us. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think with that, I think the takeaway from all of that is just to be open, to be aware, and to keep on listening and educating yourself on things that people don't really know about. So if there's a misconception or something that you're unclear of, or that anyone is unclear of, I'm sure all of us have something that we aren't very knowledgeable about. It's always better to ask. It's always better to listen to someone who is actually from that group and ask them and talk to them to clear up any misconceptions. And spreading hate against or negativity towards any certain group is always bad.
I think even sharing the knowledge kind of is part of your service as Shia. So I
Yeah.
think it's very important to educate ourselves and then educate other people, especially those who come asking. Yeah.
All right. Okay. With that, I think that's the first episode for season 2. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.